From the streets of America to the rainforests of the Amazon, racial and social justice movements are reshaping our world. These movements are a call for equality, dignity, and systemic change. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, but these movements are all connected. They're threads in the same tapestry for a just world. A world where skin color doesn't dictate opportunities, where gender doesn't define worth, and where every voice can be heard. So buckle up, because we're taking a trip around the globe. We'll dive into these movements, understand their roots, and see how they're pushing for a better tomorrow. America's relationship with racial justice is complicated. The civil rights movement of the 60s, led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was a huge step forward. Landmark changes like the Civil Rights Act were passed, but we haven't reached happily ever after yet. Today, movements like Black Lives Matter demand an end to systemic racism and police brutality. These protests went global. Across the pond, the UK is grappling with its history of borrowing other cultures' stuff and calling it British. The Windrush scandal exposed the mistreatment of Caribbean immigrants, reminding us that even countries with fancy accents can have messed up systems. Organizations like Show Racism the Red Card tackle discrimination through education and activism. It's a thankless job, but someone's got to do it. Asia, a continent of breathtaking diversity, is also home to a tapestry of social justice movements. In India, the Dalit rights movement continues to fight against the deeply ingrained caste system, a system so old it makes feudalism look like a millennial trend. Meanwhile, in Myanmar, the Rohingya crisis has sparked international outrage. And in Hong Kong, pro-democracy activists continue to demand freedom and human rights, facing down a government that seems to have missed the memo on that whole democracy thing. In Africa, a continent brimming with youthful energy and potential, social justice movements are being spearheaded by a new generation. In Nigeria, the #EndSARS campaign against police brutality brought together people from all walks of life, united in their demand for change. And in South Africa, the Fees Must Fall movement, driven by students, challenged the economic barriers to education. These young activists are like, we inherited this mess, but we're not afraid to clean it up. South America, a land of vibrant cultures and breathtaking landscapes, is also a battleground for indigenous rights and social justice. In the heart of the Amazon, indigenous tribes are fighting to protect their ancestral lands from deforestation and exploitation. And across the continent, the Afro-Brazilian community is demanding an end to systemic racism and inequality. And let's not forget the feminist movement Ni Una Menos, which is challenging gender-based violence and demanding justice for victims. Europe, a continent with a long and complicated history, grapples with its colonial legacy and present-day racism. Grassroots movements demand humane treatment of refugees, challenging governments on human rights. In Belgium, there's a call for the return of stolen artifacts, reckoning with colonial history. Racial and social justice are concepts that aim to create a fair and equal society. Racial justice focuses on addressing and dismantling systemic racism, ensuring that people of all races have equal opportunities and are treated with dignity and respect. Social justice, on the other hand, encompasses a broader range of issues, including economic inequality, gender discrimination, and access to education and healthcare. Together, these movements strive to build a world where everyone, regardless of their background, can thrive and reach their full potential. Down under, in the land of kangaroos, Australia faces a reckoning with its treatment of indigenous peoples. The Uluru Statement from the Heart calls for constitutional recognition. It's a testament to Indigenous Australians' resilience. In New Zealand, the Maori advocate for justice under the Treaty of Waitangi. New Zealand isn't just about hobbits and scenery, but honoring its indigenous heritage. So, there you have it. A whirlwind tour of social justice movements around the world. It's easy to feel overwhelmed, to feel like the problems are too big, too entrenched, too impossible to solve. But here's the thing. Hope is contagious. These movements, these acts of courage and resistance, they're not just about fighting against something, they're about fighting for something. They're about building a world where everyone, regardless of their race, gender, religion, or sexual orientation, has the opportunity to thrive, and that's a powerful thing.